Happy Mother's Day to all you mums out there. Or should I say, mamas out there. Papa. Anyway, that's what I watch. Excellent segue, right? So, you know the drill. Spoiler alert, blah, 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 blah. All the things I'm going to be saying about this will be giving away plot points, etc. And the ending, you've been warned. Now, what better way to celebrate Mother's Day than a a very obsessive ghost parent that refuses to let her children who aren't hers go, etc. So let's just jump right into it. So we have a gentleman come into his house. Well, he's not a gentleman, I guess. A dude go into his house, played by the Kingslayer, by the way, so that's fun. Kills his wife. We can only assume it's off camera, but I mean, it's pretty not very subtle what happened. Grabs his kids, takes off. And they're like, Dad, isn't Mom taking us to school? No, Mom's not feeling good. Off they go. Down the highway. It's winter. They slip. Skid off the road. Crash the car. Dad takes the kids into the woods, finds a cabin. Enters the cabin. Says his final goodbyes as he's about to do... Well, he's gonna kill his kids and then himself, I'm guessing. I don't know what the story is behind him or why he's gone that far, but that's the story. Anyway, he's stopped by this ghost who lives in this cabin. Breaks his neck, and then we get 5 years later. And 5 years later, we have his twin brother, who goes by the name of Luke. I don't know what the dad's name was, but anyway, he goes by the name of Luke, and his girlfriend Annabelle. Luke has basically hired people to continue looking after the police had stopped looking for his two nieces, which, you know, commendable. It's eating away their bank account. Their last payment didn't go through, but luckily this is the job that they end up finding the house and the kids. So these two, I don't know what you call them, bounty hunters, I guess, but not like in a criminal sense. They find the cabin, they enter. It's broken down and horrible, and these kids are like, they find the kids and they're totally feral. So I forgot to mention the way the mom. Okay, so Mama is the name of the ghost, and it like has been taking care of them for these 5 years, like giving them cherries and stuff, and essentially making sure they don't die. And lo and behold, yeah, they find that when the two sleuths go and find the kids, they find a big like stack of cherry pits or whatever. I'm sure they're eating other things too, because I don't think you could sustain yourself on cherries. But anyway, getting way too far into that. They find the kids, they're feral, they bring them back. Luke goes to see them. They're in like a therapy thing because for 5 years they've been living like isolated, quote unquote, not looked after, even though, you know, secretly, but they don't know that. And he's going through a custody thing, so he wants to take care of these kids. They're like, they mean the world to him, whatever. They were his brother's kids. Annabelle isn't so much reluctant as, I don't know how to put it, because she's very supportive, to be fair, but you can tell it's not something she initially signed up for. Like, even her friends at one point are like, dude, just like leave him. And she's like, I cannot do that to him. So let's just put it this way, it's a role she didn't plan for, but it's a role that she's going to try to do to the best of her ability because it's the right thing to do, and she's not a piece of shit. She's young, she's in a band, but you know what? There's these kids now, they need her and they need him. So, lo and behold, that's what we're gonna do. Anyway, this Dr. Dreyfus, Dr. Dreyfus is sort of like the psychologist, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, psychologist, psychiatrist, shrink, let's just say that, who's talking to these girls and trying to get them sort of like, you know, figure out like if they're okay mentally, if, you know, if everything's going to be groovy with them and whatnot. And he's in court with Luke and Annabelle, basically pleading for custody. The other person is the mom's aunt, so the great aunt. Her name's Jean. Anyway, she's basically, her argument is, that's great. The heart is there and everything, but they live in like a small apartment. This one's in a band and the other one's an artist. Like, they're not financially capable of taking care of kids. Anyway, unusually, the doctor basically, after the case or whatever, he pulls them aside and he's like, listen, I got this house. As long as I can stay in contact with these kids and keep observing them and whatever, you guys can go into that house and you guys will get custody. Everything will be groovy. And they're like, okay, sweet. It's very bizarre, but whatever. Anyway, we find out the doctor has ulterior motives in a sense, but whatever. We'll figure that out later. Anyway, guess what? Looks like when they move into the house, Mama has come with them. So that's fun. There are some instances where the kids are aware that Mama's there. You don't quite see the ghost thing yet or whatever. But it's there. Like, there's a scene where one of the kids is playing tug of war or something, and then the other kid runs down the hallway or something, and Annabelle's carrying like the laundry or whatever, and lo and behold, yeah, that's Mama playing with the kids. So anyway, initially it's a bit of a struggle, but the older of the two girls, Victoria, ends up like, so Luke is, I guess, an identical twin to her dad. So right away she calls him like dad or daddy or whatever, and he's like, no, I'm your uncle, and she's like, no, daddy. It's like, okay. And they meet Annabelle and they're like, Mama? And she's like, no, my name's Annabelle, but we can figure that out. I'm here for you regardless, but I'm not your mom. Which, I mean, I get it, I guess. Anyway. That's neither here nor there. So the aunt is kind of, this whole time is wanting them, and they've won the custody, so obviously the aunt's kind of annoyed. Anyway, Annabelle keeps seeing or hearing people in the house communicating with the kids, and the kids are not really saying anything, and so she assumes right away, well, it's probably Jean. She's probably sneaking in and trying to convince the kids to say that they want to live with her or something like that. I don't know. What else could it be though, right? Like, that's the only somewhat, it's not logical, but like compared to, maybe a ghost from the cabin followed them. I guess it's logical by comparison. So that's her thoughts on this whole situation. Anyway, there's an encounter because apparently Mama is a jealous ghost, and seeing the kids calling their uncle dad and like calling their uncle their dad or whatever, and all this stuff has kind of made her jealous. And so at one point there's like so how she's able to get into this house from her cabin is there's like a moth portal in the wall, and that makes no sense, but there's like a black mold splotch that moths come through, and that's how Mama enters the house. So there's one in the wall in the hallway at one point, there's another in the closet at another point, so I guess she can move it around to wherever she needs it to be. Anyway, good old Luke goes to investigate a noise, and he sees the moth hole on the wall in the hallway, and moths are crawling out, and he's like, what the hell is this? Or yeah, he sees a moth first, and then his eyes are drawn to the moth hole. I don't know what it's called. I'm gonna call it a moth hole because what else is it, right? That's what it is. Anyway, his attention's drawn to that, and then Mama, lo and behold, comes out and like shoves him over the banister, off the stairs, falls down, boom, hospitalized, in a coma. Shit. Now Annabelle is kind of thrust into primary caregiver, which she already was a secondary caregiver, which she wasn't really prepared for. Again, supportive, and again there for the kids, but not prepped at all on what to do, how to act, how to talk to these kids, anything like that. So she asked the doctor, like, what now? And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, well, he's in the hospital. What happened to the kids? And he's like, well, you kind of are still there. And she's like, shit. Yeah, that's right. And the whole thing is like, if she doesn't look after them, custody is lost. It goes to Jean. And whenever Luke comes to, he'll wake to find out that he doesn't have custody of the kids anymore. So that's not going to happen. So Annabelle's just like, okay, I'll do my best. And she does her best. She starts to slowly kind of bond with Victoria, the older of the two, a little bit quicker than with Lily. Lily is still the more feral of the two, the younger one. can't remember how old she was when she was like in the car accident or whatever, but she was really young. So she's probably had more time with Mama than she did with her own family. So that kind of explains that one. Anyway. Eventually there's a scene where Mama lures... So every night, Lily is basically wakes up Victoria and's like, Lily, come, Mama. And then they go and they, I guess, play with Mama or whatever. In one of these situations, Annabelle hears that and goes to the room and sees them awake. And she's like, oh, guys, do you know what time it is? Like, well, of course you don't know what time it is, but it's really late. So we got to call it a night, okay? Let's just call it a night, and we'll talk to you in the morning. You know, just calm down. Not thinking, oh, there's a ghost in here playing with you, but she's kind of like, something's a little fucky here. Excuse my language. Anyway, she goes to bed. She has like a vision dream of like this hospital and whatnot that this ghost Mama was like, it's kind of her backstory. She sees like her stabbing a nun and taking a baby and running out of an asylum, which we find out is kind of the true story of what happened. She basically did that. She took the baby. She was chased by the townsfolk, I guess. I don't know. It's in like the 1800s, and they chase her to a cliff, and she basically dives off the cliff with the baby, saying essentially like, you cannot keep me from my kid, and you know, if I can't have her, no one can type deal. A little twisted, but that's, you know, she's in a mental asylum, so she's not all there anyway. Anyway, that's the story. This whole time, Dr. Dreyfus has been doing hypnosis with Victoria and kind of learning that, okay, there's some truth to this story that I read about. Because Victoria is telling him things that she says that Mama told her, which are related to the actual story. So he does his own investigation, goes to this archives area where there's like stuff in there, and there's an archives clerk who's kind of like, yeah, so we keep a lot of things in here. Some of it is, let's just say, I don't think we should be keeping human remains in here. And he's like, what? And she pulls out a box of, I guess, this, I think her name is Edith or something like that, but I'm just going to call her Mama. Pulls out Mama's box of stuff, and in it is like a sealed box, which we find out what's in it later. You could probably guess what it is at this point, but anyway. Gives him all that stuff, and he's doing research on his own, and he basically tracks down to where all this stuff has been occurring, into this place called, is it like Cedar Springs or something like that? Cedar or something? Shit, I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's a small town in the middle of nowhere. So he drives out there and finds the cabin, and he comes in, and there's like moth stuff happening, because that's how she rolls, right? Her and her moths, that's her crew. Oh, jeez. Good thing she doesn't know about Mothra. That would be a whole other can of... Well, I was going to say can of worms. I guess can of moths. Anyway, whatever. Getting sidetracked with stupid crap that's not even funny. So, anyway, he gets into this cabin, and she starts manifesting. He's like, yeah, I know who you are, by the way. Like, I know what's up. I know your story, etc., etc. Mama doesn't give a shit. She kills him. So, that's done and done. I guess it's been a while. So, Jean comes to the house and is like, hey, it's my day to see the kids. And Annabelle's like, oh, okay. Luke's still in the hospital at this point. He's come to and everything, and they've had a little thing. Because he also had a dream in relation to that. So he kind of knows through the dream a little bit of the story as well. Anyway, Jean's there. Annabelle's alone with the kids, and she starts looking at the kids and sees bruises and stuff, and immediately thinks child abuse. And Annabelle's like, no, they're kids. They get bruises. That's just like... It's part of being a kid. Like, have you never had children? And it's true. Kids get bruised. They bump around. They go outside. They play in the dirt. They fall and whatever. It's life. Anyway, she's right away saying child abuse. Annabelle's friggin' pissed at that. She doesn't want to hear that. She's like, listen, you know what? You got to leave this house right now before I kick your ass, or something along those lines. And she leaves and gets to the car, and right away is calling someone's like, yes, can I have the number for social services? And starts reporting it. Like, what do I feel that my nieces are being abused. How do I get proof of this or whatever? And anyway, that's the whole story there. So back in the hospital, we got Luke doing sketches. Just he's bored. He's an artist, so he's sketching something, and then he stops and he's looking as he's sketching a bridge with like a figure under it, and he's like, "That is strange. Did that come from my brain, or is that like something else?" And he's trying to remember. He's like, "Oh, that was in my dream." And there's a file folder there with like some information about the whole situation. I'll be honest, I can't remember why the file folder is there. So it's probably there for a reason. Anyway, he has his file folder on sort of like the whole mama situation. And so he takes it upon himself when he realizes that he's sketching an actual place in the real world that he thought he saw in his dream, but he'd never been there. I mean, that'd be creepy to anyone, right? He takes it upon himself to leave the hospital, rents a car, drives out to Cedar... I'm going to call it Cedar Springs, because I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, he goes out there and... is it Cedar Stone? Maybe that's what it is. Cedar, is it even cedar? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It could be maple fucking rock. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he drives out there and he gets to the bridge and he stops and like, yeah, that's like literally the bridge. So I guess he's been drawing other things because he is like, okay, well, I'm gonna snoop around. There's some shit going on here. Anyway, Jean sneaks into the house at one point, and Mama had just finished revealing herself to Annabelle. So Victoria had seen Annabelle on the couch a little bit stressed. Oh fuck. So she had gone, when the doctor was killed, she had gone to the office. I guess they had an appointment or something, and they hadn't heard from the doctor, and they goes right to voicemail, and she's in the waiting room with the toys and the kids are playing, and the secretary answers the phone, and then she's like, oh my god, and like almost starts crying and rushes out, and it's like, okay, so we know what happened. Or she assumes, I guess she knows what happened. So as the secretary's gone, she like sneaks and grabs all the doctor's notes and stuff, and she's snooping through the notes, and that's how she finds the hypnosis tapes. And we learn a little bit more about the Mama story. So essentially, when Mama jumped off the cliff, this is through what Victoria is telling them now. From what Mama told Victoria, she's repeating to the doctor these hypnosis tapes. Anyway, when Mama fell, she hit a branch and she fell in the water, but the baby didn't fall in the water. And she was looking for her baby. She went through the forest, looked everywhere for the baby, couldn't find the baby. Turns out the townspeople took it for whatever reason. And yeah, so long story short, she's learned basically 100% of what's going on. So she takes that little sealed box and notes and stuff and heads out to the cabin in Cedar, whatever the hell it is, where she runs into Luke. They're reunited, etc. They head to the cabin. They enter it, and there's a whole confrontation. There's Mothhole and all that stuff, and Mama's not happy, obviously. She like attacks, or yeah, they don't see her in the cabin, but they see the kids on the cliff at the top there, sitting at the cliff, and I guess Mama's basically saying, okay, now you guys can jump with me and I'll make sure that I hang on to you this time, or something like that. Anyway, that happens, and they run up to the cliff and they try to stop, and first Mama attacks Luke and then attacks Annabelle, and I don't know what she does exactly. It's like she puts them to sleep or something like that. Like she touches them and they collapse. And first I thought maybe she was eating their soul or something, but Annabelle keeps coming too. So I think it's just like putting them to sleep or something like that. Anyway, that happens. They're at the edge of the cliff. Mama pops up. She's like, come on. Lily is like excited. So Lily has formed a much stronger bond with Mama than Victoria has. Obviously they both had, but like to Lily, Mama's number one, and Luke and Annabelle are like, they're just there kind of. Whereas Victoria's older and smart enough, I guess, to realize that, yeah, this is a little messed up. Like, these two people are legitimate people. They're able to take care of me a lot better than a ghost, even though they fed me cherries, which is awesome because cherries are awesome. But and she's connected with both of these, said the I love yous, gave them hugs, all that kind of stuff. And of course Mama's jealous. So she attacks Luke, attacks Annabelle, and basically opens her arms like, come on, come to Mama. And Lily runs to her because that's her Mama essentially for like 5 years of her life. And Victoria's like, no, Lily, don't. And then Lily's like, Victoria, come. And she's like, no, Victoria, stay. And Lily's kind of like, no, you come. What are you doing? And she's set in her ways. Annabelle comes to and grabs Victoria to like make sure that the ghosty can't take, and Ghost puts her to sleep again and wake up and grab her again, put her to sleep again, wake up and grab her again, and finally Mama looks and she's like, wow, okay, so I guess she makes like a compromise in her head. She's like, all right, I'll tell you what. She doesn't say this, but I guess this is how her mind is going. Oh, I forgot to mention, so in the box it was the remains of the baby, like Mama's original baby, like the bones. And she almost seals the deal and, you know, set the ghost free, and like the whole wandering earth thing is dealt with by giving her the baby. And even her face like decontorts to like a kind of almost normal human face instead of a creepy ghost face. Still creepy, but like not the same amount of creepy. She's holding the baby and she's about to go, and then stupid Lily is like, Mama! And then she stops and turns and sees Lily, and then throws her baby's bones away. Like, they don't mean anything. This one's alive, this one's dead, right? So I guess your priorities. Anyway, that's how that whole thing happens. And Annabelle is doing her best to, like, she keeps reviving herself and trying to stop them, and eventually, yeah, Mama's just like, okay, well, I can tell you genuinely love this little girl, but I'm not leaving empty-handed. So Lily wants to come with me, Victoria wants to stay with you. That's how we're gonna work it. And obviously she's not saying that, but like that's clearly what's going on in her ghosty head. Obviously, Annabelle is like, no, that's not cool. They're both living girls. Anyway, long story short, Mama gets her way, and Lily jumps into Mama's arms, and they're floating, and then she like wraps in a big thing, and they plummet down the cliff, and they hit that same branch and explode into a bunch of moths, because, you know, moths, right? That's the thing. At this point, Luke comes to, and joins Annabelle and Victoria on the edge of the cliff hugging, and they're all like, kind of like, oh my god, you know, like Lily's gone. That's it. She's not coming back at all. Lost a sister, but she's safe, so I guess it's like sad relief / just like every emotion that could mess up your brain. Anyway, a little moth ends up flying and landing on Victoria's finger, and I guess there's like I don't know, she just knows that that's Lily, so Lily is okay and happy with Mama now, and that's essentially how the movie ends. So Victoria goes home with her new parents, uncle and auntie, and yeah, Lily is dead with a ghost. The end. So yeah, I didn't tell that very well, but I mean that is the gist of the story. Like it's a better watch than how I've been explaining it. Anyway, what did I think in general of the film? So let's go with the CGI first of all. Some scenes it looked really cool. Some scenes it was kind of like, what? So when you don't really see Mama's face, it looks way creepier than when you do see her face. Like, there are some practical effects too, I believe, like with her fingers, all like the ends are all blackened and stuff, and like that looks really cool. And the CGI went a little harder than I would have wanted, though. I would have gone more for practical with CGI enhancements to make her like transparent or misty or whatever you want to do. It's kind of like the opposite of what was it, Deadstream, where there was no CGI and you could tell it was makeup. In this one there was like no makeup, you could tell it was CGI, so whatever. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Looked okay for the most part. It was passable for the type of movie it was. You're not dwelling too much on that, but it did take away from some scenes. Like, I wasn't actually like creeped out or anything seeing this thing. So there's that. The acting was fine. I got no issues with that. The story was pretty good. I do like that story. You know, the abandoned kids, the ghost who lost her child kind of finding peace in these two living girls taking care of them, and then when that's taken away from her, obviously, like, shit hits the fan and she she goes like obsessive mom. So I like that story. Yeah, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. What am I gonna rate this bad boy? first number that comes to my head is 6.45. So I'm going to go with that. It was good. It wasn't like the greatest movie in the history of time, but it was enjoyable. I'll probably watch it again. Should you watch it? I would say sure. It's streaming on Netflix. I believe it's on a couple other services. I don't think it's on any free services, so you're probably going to have a subscription to something. But yeah, Netflix for sure. It might be on Shudder. I don't know. I didn't look, but I watched it on Netflix. So if you have that in Canada, you're good. The States, I don't know. I assume it's in the States on Netflix as well. But yeah, that is my review and my summary. Happy Mother's Day once again. I doubt my mom will ever see this, but if you do, happy Mother's Day. Yeah, and we'll leave it at that. What are we going to do next? Ooh, I have a couple of ideas. I'm not going to say what, though, because, yeah, we'll just leave it up to... we'll let the winds of I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, let's just end this because I'm rambling. Okay, bye.